Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Sunanda. Welcome to the show and congratulations on your congressional hearing. I can't wait to hear about it. Well, my first question to you is how did it feel speaking at the congressional hearing in Washington, D.C.? How did it make you feel?
Very liberating and very somber. I mean, everybody is saying congratulations and everybody is happy, but I really don't know. You know, congratulations for what? This was actually a very poignant story, and this was a story of grief, really. But as they say, truth sets you free. Before going there, I had been warned by friends and foes alike. You are going in front of a firing squad. You are setting yourself up. You are doing this is not good, and But I got to know just 24 hours before the event. When I found out about, I found out that this was happening only 48 hours before the event, and I was furious because there was just one-sided narrative on it. So I went and furiously typed on Twitter that this is not right. The other side of the story should also be known. So finally, I don't know what happened 24 hours before the event. I mean, this happened on Thursday afternoon, in Chicago, DC time. I got to know on Wednesday morning, I received an email, would you like to testify? And I said, absolutely, I would like to testify. And I flew on Thursday morning to DC. And it was 5-1, as you could see. I mean, the panel was completely lopsided. But Priyanka, think if I was not there. 48, I don't know when the other panelists were informed. I don't know how long they had taken to prepare and everything, but all that is under the bridge. But what I'm trying to say is that it took a lot of fight to get in even one voice there.
Now, I noticed that other people in the panel, they were experts with all due respect, and they were bringing up relatives and research that they had brought with them. But you were the only one on the panel that was a survivor yourself. So, why was this important, and what are your thoughts on it?
Very proud that I'm a survivor. It's always a privilege. I feel a sense of privilege that I'm alive and I'm there to tell the story when other people couldn't do it, or were brutally extinguished and their voices were extinguished and they couldn't speak. But it felt good. Truth feels so liberating, Priyanka. I was nervous before I sat there. I was sitting in this litany of human rights lawyers, and I was like, I don't know what they're going to say, and I don't know if my voice will even be heard. But at such times, all you have to do is speak the truth. And I just discovered yesterday that truth will go far.
My next question to you has two
When you
parts. The first part is why are these congressional hearings important? And number two, there was a very poignant question that was asked to you. And a lot of the people, I watched the entire congressional hearing, but a lot of people had not watched it just because of the time difference. But there was one very important question that was posed to you, which is what is the path forward? So I want to give you the opportunity to kind of tell us what the path forward is, as well as the significance of the congressional hearing.
Okay, so two questions. I'll take the second one first. Are these congressional hearings important? These congressional hearings don't mean anything as far, and I want to tell this through your medium to everybody in India. It does not mean anything for India-US policy. Zero, nothing. They do not have any such powers. What it is, congressional hearings are just a way for elected officials to apprise themselves of the situations from the witnesses. That's all there is. So what happens is that later this may be included in their votes. This may be included in the way they vote in the Congress, in the House, in the Senate. This may be included. I mean, this is for sure recorded in the U.S. Congress. It's a testimony recorded forever. So it has historical significance, and it may or may not affect policy. But it's important to put your voice there. It's important to let others know. And these days, in the days of internet, whatever you're speaking, you may be speaking in a group of 200 people, but it goes live and you speak to 50 million people. So it's very important, and so in that sense it's important that you are educating US lawmakers. That's all this is, just telling your side of the story the way you know it, and briefing US lawmakers. And your other question was, what was the way forward? That question was asked for by a Republican congresswoman from Texas, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and she said, "What is the way forward?" Because everybody was, no one was agreeing to anything there. I mean, uh, what is the path forward? So my testament had just one part, and it just rested on one important part, that you cannot talk human rights until terrorism is taken care of, until Islamist terrorism is bred and is supported and is encouraged in the valley. You just, human rights don't make a sense. And as long as terrorism happens, terrorism and human rights are antithesis to each other. They are just opponents of each other. And so, so when you're talking about human rights, I think this is putting cart before the horse. We need to weed out terrorism before. And I gave an example of Punjab. I said, India is such a huge country. It has been dealing with insurgencies in Punjab, in Northeast. In Punjab, there were people reported human rights excesses during that time, when there was, during the Punjab terrorism that time. But go to Punjab now. Do you see anything like that? So unfettered human rights can only happen when there is peace, when there is no fear of gun. So we need to attack it in the right way. We need to, weed out terrorism first. And then human rights will automatically follow, because we're talking about a country like India, which has, as I said yesterday also, the democratic credentials of India are unmatched. So, so yes, just harping about human rights, we can go on and on about with two.
Now, there was actually one very interesting question that was posed by John Sifton, who was the Asia Advocacy Advisor. He was also sitting on the panel, and for Human Rights Watch. And he basically spoke about broader issues, especially the Indian government's response in that, they were clamping down on mobile internet, and there was no phone connection for a little while. And that was against international human rights. Now, what is your take on that? Because I know that you were not given a chance to respond, and you were getting pretty fired up, at that point. So, what is your response to that?
Yeah. See, internet is a wonderful thing, and it is today really become fundamental rights. But what are we talking about? In Washington, D.C., sitting in Washington, D.C., in the most secure zone, you are talking about right to internet. When you have to talk about right to life, cannot be more, right to internet cannot be more important than right to life. First of all, lives need to be saved. Priyanka, not one person acknowledged yesterday, since August 5, since Article 370 was revoked, not one person, not one civilian has died at the hands of security forces. Why is that not important? Why is that not important? So, things like that all the deaths that have happened have been, whether it's Apple traders who just wanted to earn a livelihood, or shopkeepers who don't want that civilian curfew, or people who are, they have died. Why are we not talking? And whose hands have they died at? Why are we not saying that? So it has been Indian governments, I don't know, one just reads from the newspapers and whatever news comes from the government. But I think Indian government's stand on this is that internet facilitates terrorists, in their whatever they're doing, and it just makes it easier for them, and we are saving lives by restricting internet. Obviously, this cannot be a full long-term solution, but short-term solution, yes. And everywhere else, and people forget, and I found this, people on Capitol Hill don't understand the geography of Jammu and Kashmir, Priyanka. The area that is affected is very small. When you look at the map of Jammu and Kashmir, it's just such a small area. And now phones and internet are everywhere. It's just that those 3 or 4 districts where internet is not, but phones are allowed, obviously the postpaid phones and everything. So if you're going to tell me that I need the same amount of liberty that I see in Washington, D.C., that I need it in a conflict zone like Kashmir, then it's a problem. Pre 9/11, you have been United States quite well. Pre 9/11, we used to be able to go to the airports. The first time I came to United States was pre 9/11. We used to be able to go to the airports all the way to the aircraft door. I mean, then 9/11 happened. What happens now? We know we are every. Not just that, and then you are, the body searches that happen all the time and everything. You are stripped. So does anybody say anything? I mean, because we don't want to be blown up in the plane, right? So everybody gives in to them. So the kind of threat you have, the response of state will be similar. So the kind of threat you have in United States, you get body searches and all those happen. But the kind of threat that exists in Kashmir, the response from the state will be higher, because it is a terrorist zone. It is a place where people with guns move around and lives have to be saved.
Now, at the beginning of your speech, I believe, the beginning of your testimony, you put it so beautifully, and you quoted Daniel Pearl's words in your own context. And you said that your exact words were, "My father is a Kashmiri Hindu, my mother is a Kashmiri Hindu, and I'm a Kashmiri Hindu as well." You were the voice for those that did not survive for their faith. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it was very important talking about Daniel Pearl for this reason alone. We should not discriminate between victims of terror. It does not happen, not whether it was Daniel Pearl or whether it is Girija Tikku. They both fell to the bullets of extremists, to the radical Islamists. It doesn't matter where they were. So for that congressional hearing, who really understand what happened to Daniel Pearl and don't have the same kind of sympathy for B.K. Ganju or Girija Tikku or hundreds of others who died at the hands of him, they have to understand that we cannot discriminate between the victims. And that's why that line I took on, because Daniel Pearl's last lines were, "My mother is Jewish, my father is Jewish, I am a Jewish." Those were his last words. And that's why I said, my father is a Kashmiri Hindu, my mother is a Kashmiri Hindu, I am a Kashmiri Hindu. We have to be united in this fight against terror. Don't discriminate. Don't just say that this is India's battle. It isn't, because it will come to your door one day or the other, because that's the way the jihadi network works. So you have to be careful about it, and you have to understand that Daniel Pearl and Girija Tikku fell to the same bullets of the same extremists.
And the final question that I have for you is there anything that I have not asked you in this interview that you would like to say?
Yes. One thing on the record I want to say, that even on Capitol Hill yesterday, I was very dismayed that there were people of Pakistani origin and people who had sympathies to Pakistan. They actually raised slogans there, and separatist slogans there. At one point, I threatened to walk out if the house was not put in order. And the chairman apologized and said, "I have to give everyone advice. It's important, it's respectful that we listen to them every day." But now I'm glad this happened. This exposed the face of those people who talk about human rights, but even in such august hearings, even in such serious hearings, will raise slogans, because none of the other panelists stopped them. None of the other panelists said this was wrong. So it's very important for me to bring it to the notice, to everyone's notice, that slogans, separatist slogans were raised there as well, and we need to condemn those, and I condemn them.
Thank you so much, Sunanda, for your time. We really, really appreciate you being here with us on behalf of New India Junction with the time zone difference. I know that you're in Texas, USA right now. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you.